Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And this is going to be a Lord willing, a quick video just to update. You have here some information from RT News, all right, dealing with China and Taiwan, and Biden's stance now saying that it says here, U.S. ready to fight China over Taiwan. President Joe Biden said Washington could be directly involved in conflict should China try to take this island or take the island by force. All right, and for a while now that Taiwan has been that talk, and there's been back and forths, and there's been statements made, but now Biden is here, making this bold statement about responding with force, or engaging in direct military conflict with China. All right, if they try to take Taiwan or anything of that sort. Okay, which is all adding on to prophecy at the end of the day. Okay, wars and rumors of wars. And ultimately, what all this war talk and all this war preparations and all that is doing is it's putting all these nations on high alert. Okay, as these nations see what's going on and they see what their allies are getting involved in, and they're seeing the kind of talks and the how close this is getting to actual world war. Everybody's getting ready. Everybody's making sure that they have, good nuclear defense systems and weapons that they can use as well, which is all prophecy because they're being stirred up and set up to actually go to war, which is going to happen. So at some point, these rumors are going to turn to live war. So reading the article, it says, U.S. President Joe Biden indicated on Monday that Washington is willing to use military force to defend Taiwan if necessary. Now, on top of that, the U.S. is talking about sending special forces to Kiev to protect. I believe they said they opened the embassy stuff. They got their people going back there, U.S. people that is. So they're thinking of sending them special forces over there to protect them and so on and so forth, which will be a great escalation. All right, and from the point of view, I'm looking at it as they've, of course, they had the, now we're seeing why they were pushing so hard that Russia's about to invade Ukraine, yada yada yada, because that's the perfect storm for all these things that are going on. Now they've been using that for a while, but as things start to die down, the heat is not as much anymore. They're gonna need to if they want to continue using that as a cover, then they're gonna need to keep that fire going, keep that action rising. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to take it another step to provoke Russia to do something enough so they can take that and say, hey, look, they escalated tensions and things are getting worse, because if they're claiming Russia invading Ukraine is causing all of this food shortages and pretty much all the troubles going on around the world, well, if you escalate matters in that region even further, you can continue to have a cover for why things are collapsing and why they may be collapsing at an even faster rate. Okay, but it says here, speaking at a joint press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo, he explained that the U.S. sees the idea of China, quote unquote, going in with its troops as unacceptable. When asked if the U.S. would become directly involved in a conflict between China and Taiwan, including through the use of military force, Biden said yes, adding that it's a commitment we made. All right, now keep in mind that Russia and China, they work together. So it wouldn't be it wouldn't be too much for if something like this did turn out for China to say ask for some help, or if they needed it, that is. Okay. But these tensions are definitely getting ready to to kick off into another gear. And the thing about it is, you have a lot of things that are happening around the world now. They're trying to bring out like these emergency planning, to try and mitigate and reduce the effects felt by the troubles that are coming. But when you read the scriptures, it tells you that none of those things are going to avail. You may try to hold it back, you may try to calm it down and slow it down for a bit, but guess what? According to prophecy and the agenda of these elites, they have to do that to make it look realistic. But in actuality, their plan is just keep it collapsing. So instead of just dropping it all at once, they do it gradually. And then they put a little slow down to say, oh, look, we're releasing these reserves of oil. We're ordering baby formula from, other countries. We're doing this to try and reduce the strain that's being felt. Increasing, raising the hike, whatever, hiking the interest rates, to try and bring inflation under control. That's to make it look like there's an effort to try and save this place. But in reality, you're going to find out, yeah, we did that, but still, numbers are still high. Still, things are not looking too good. Okay? So eventually, all right, whether sooner or later, eventually, these things are still going to hit. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if things start to pick up even more after these guys' World Economic Forum meeting, and that question mark, right? The W people, they have their voting to give them that power. Because I was actually reading in the tabletop exercise that was done last year concerning world preparedness for a pandemic, and the scenario they used was the MP, right? Which eventually, in the scenario, they came out and declared it as a bioterrorist attack. That there was a terrorist group behind it, and they did it. So, I mean, we'll watch and see what they actually do in real life with it. Nevertheless, in that document, after the scenario, they discussed what are points that they want to focus on, what are some important things to bring up, and they mentioned a lot of the parts mentioned was having an international force that is able to detect, and moving from they called it a no regret, I believe they said, standpoint. And instead of being reactive, they want to be anticipatory, right? So anticipate it rather than wait for it to hit before you do something about it. They mentioned this power union between the W, the question mark, and the UN. Okay, and they also mentioned having to amend or change the I forgot what it was called, but it was basically like a I wouldn't say treaty, but something along those lines that defines rules for the question mark and what they can do and what they cannot do. And this was in a simulation. All right, they said this is something we need to do in order to gain the proper powers in order to be put in the right places to handle these things. So it's interesting that we're seeing a couple of things from that simulation start to take place in real life. Of course, we're in those times anyway, so that's why we got to watch, all right, pay attention to all these things. Now it says here, the U.S. leader has previously said Washington respects the one China policy by which it recognizes that there is only one China led by Beijing. Biden, however, maintained that China has no jurisdiction to go in Slovakia, to go in and use force to take over Taiwan. The idea that the island nation can be taken by force is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the whole region, the U.S. president said. And then, it gives a bit more information. He's on his trip and yada, yada, yada. But actually, it says here, Taiwan has recently accused China of repeatedly violating its defense zone. In early May, the island nation reported that China's nuclear-capable bombers entered the zone. Taiwan has been de facto self-governed since 1949, when the remnants of the nationalist government fled the mainland after their defeat in the Civil War, but never formally declared independence from China. It says Beijing considers the Taiwanese authorities to be separatist, insisting that the territory is an inalienable part of China. And here you go with the U.S. sticking its nose again in these places. But you know what? Ultimately, the scriptures say, I'm going to get a few right here, but that's why it says, all ye that bend the bow, round about, which are these countries that have the capability to shoot these missiles. What they're going to do is they're gonna shoot them missiles. And of course, they're going to be going at it with each other, but eventually the main target is going to be Babylon. All right, this place has gone on for far too long with their wickedness. This is Joel chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. So when you have war games and you have them testing out new weapons, hypersonic missiles and all the defense systems, everybody's testing out their stuff. Right, because they're waking up the mighty men, the men of war, and they're getting ready because they know that, look, the way the world is looking right now, everybody got to be on guard. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. And plowshares and pruning hooks are agricultural tools. Swords and spears are weapons of war. Okay, so what is that telling you? That's telling you that these nations, instead of focusing on agriculture and investing in those things, they're putting their money and their focus on their weapons. Why is that? Because the Lord is preparing them for war. Let the weak say, I am strong. And how would the weak be able to say, I am strong? Well, now it's not really necessarily about size anymore, and more so about nuclear capability. Because even a small country, if they have them ICBMs or them nukes, and they can reach, they can do damage. All right, they can do damage. It says here, okay, I think that's the main part right there. Now the next part I wanted to go to is let's see, and I believe this is in Jeremiah, probably 50 or 51. Let's see. Yeah, this is Jeremiah 50 and 14. And it says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All right. And we know that at some point this is going to involve Babylon's so-called NATO allies and European Union allies, as well as its enemies. Okay, which you can read about that in Revelation, the 17th chapter, when it tells you about the horns, turning upon the whore, right, and burning her flesh with fire. Matter of fact, let me just pull that up. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Remember, the whore, yeah, it's technically a part of the beast, but it's also riding on the beast, right? The scarlet colored beast. So the whore, being America, is the one that's on top. But at some point, the horns, the EU, and the rest of the beast, really itself, the NATO and all of them, it says what? These shall hate the whore, and the whore be in Babylon. So something is getting ready to happen that's going to change the perspective of Babylon in the eyes of the world, even in the eyes of its allies. Something is going to take place that's going to trigger that. And it says what? These shall hate the whore. Now, as a matter of fact, let me look up this word hate. Oh, 1 second. Okay. And you have your miseo. It says to hate, pursue with hatred, detest. To detest, to pursue with hatred and detest. So whatever it is, it's gonna be something that's definitely gonna trigger these nations. Okay? It's definitely gonna trigger these nations. When you look up the word detest, it says to dislike intensely, to loathe, to abominate. So keep an eye out for that, because something is getting ready to happen. And it says what? These shall hate the whore. They're going to detest her. They're going to intensely dislike her and pursue her with hatred, and shall make her desolate and naked. And how are they going to do that? By shooting missiles over here. All right, and that's going to contribute to the desolation of this place. It says, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And what that means is that they're going to destroy this place with their missile capabilities. Okay, so going back to Jeremiah 50 and 14. All right, it says here, and these are all prophecies that should be known, because these are prophecies pertaining to the times that we're living in. All right, when you read Revelation and you understand that these nations are going to turn on the, well, you got to actually know that at some point that's going to happen. That's something you got to look out for in real life. So that's why it's important to understand these prophecies, because they're actually manifesting in our real lives. So to know what's going on, to be able to keep up with current events and gauge where we are in prophecy and what's to come next, you got to understand these future prophecies. So Jeremiah 50 and 14, put yourselves in array against Babylon. We know Babylon is known today as America. Round about, all ye that bend the bow. And the bow, when you read in the scriptures, and oftentimes it's referring to those missile silos. Okay, sometimes it says a bow, but and ultimately it's talking about the missiles. All right, but the bow is what the arrow is shot from. Right, so just like the silo is what the missile comes out of. So all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows. Okay, and the arrows are those missiles, for she hath sinned against the Lord. So that's why these nations are gonna ultimately, they're gonna shoot them missiles over here, because it's a part of the judgment of the Lord. Okay, and this place is gonna be finished and it's gonna be through. So all these events that we're seeing leading up to this destruction that's coming, that's exactly what it is. It's leading up to this destruction that's coming. It's preparing these people. All right, and the Lord is working on the minds of all of these kings. All right, all of these so-called world rulers, to speed up their plans and their agendas, and ultimately to fulfill His work. All right, so we're at that time, and that's why we ought to remain, vigilant, diligent, and watch. Okay, circumspect. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.